the most interesting number to me in all of this. So we, again, a nation of 330 million plus people. We have 23,000 deaths. Out of those 23,000 deaths, over 10,000 of them are in New York City. All right, guys, week whatever of coronavirus. I barely even know what day it is, but I just wanted to give an update and just sort of provide an insight into what just happened to me at Whole Foods, and why I think this is growing increasingly problematic, just the measures that are being taken in regards to the coronavirus stipulations. Okay, so just a bit of background first and foremost. Right off of the bat, you all that have been following me know that I have been saying that there is something weird about this COVID-19. And it was just really my gut instincts off the bat that led me to believe that the rhetoric was not adding up. I travel, for those of you that don't know, I travel up to 5 days a week. On a slow week, I travel 3 days a week, but usually 5 days a week is regular for me, all around the nation, doing events, shaking hands. I basically live in an airport, have an insane amount of miles that I hope I will be able to use one day. So when the coronavirus outbreak happened, outbreak meaning the media outbreak, when people started increasing the rhetoric and saying that they were going to start shutting down cities, I was on the road. I was in Florida for my Blexit event, and I had a full week ahead of me of more events. Two events in California, one event in Houston, and one event in Northern California. So I did not cancel any of my events because I instantly calculated and I said, if what they are saying is true, if this virus is so virulent that it can jump 6 feet, if the virus can be transmitted ocularly, they were saying that you could get it could live on surfaces for hours and hours after it was touched. I just accepted my doom. I figured I either A, already had it, or B, was going to get it, because if you travel like me, there's no way not to get it. If you meet as many people as I do and shake as many hands as I do, you just have to accept your fate. But, in my gut, I did not exactly think that this was going to be the thing that took out humanity. Maybe it's because we are promised an apocalypse once a month. Climate change, Soleimani was supposed to be World War III. The internet was supposed to be over with I forgot what those restrictions were that they said the internet will never be the same, and then everything was fine. And I just felt like this was going to be one of those things that was really hyped up and did not measure up to what all of the media members were saying. Again, actually, let me just foremost shout out the media members that have been calm in their rhetoric. Laura Ingraham has been asking the right questions from the beginning. Sean Hannity has been asking the right questions from the beginning. Rush Limbaugh has been asking the right questions from the beginning, as has Tucker Carlson, not in the beginning, but he's now starting to say that some of these lockdowns and procedures that are growing increasingly more tyrannical are not making much sense. And if you have not just sort of looked around and said, this is weird, you might be a person that can be easily led on by the media, or you must be very invested in the media and watching a lot of hours of it, because this is just not making sense. We were told that it was going to grow exponentially, and at the time that they first started telling us these predictions, nobody had changed their habits. In a nation of 330 million people, it is impossible to get everybody to change their habits. For those of you that are Game of Thrones fans like I am, there's a scene in the last season where Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen literally have to bring the zombies, they're not zombies, but the walkers, to the feet of Cersei Lannister, because they know that unless she sees the dead thing in front of her coming to life, she's not going to believe what lays beyond the wall. That's a great illustration of just regular human behavior. Most people, no matter how much you tell them that something's going to be bad, they're not going to actually edit their behaviors until death is on their front step. We were told that that was going to happen within a span of 2 weeks, and then it was going to be exponentially, and that millions were going to die. As of today, 23,000 have died, and some people never edited their behaviors. So I looked around instantly, and I saw that the spring breakers still went on spring break. You'll recall all of those high school kids and college kids on the news saying that they weren't going to give up their spring break, that they only live once, a very young mentality. In DC, which is where I live, they shut down, even though they shut down the universities, we were actually one of the last cities to adopt the shut down the restaurants and shut down the bars. So we had for weeks people that, because they were not working, were day drinking, were spilling out of bars, just a ton of people together celebrating because they had work off, not because they were fearful of coronavirus. I happened to go to the Columbia Heights to get my hair done. The Dominicans were all partying in their neighborhood, like I get my hair done by the Dominicans. And so I just did a common sense calculation and said, if this thing is as bad as they say it is, DC is going to get hit really hard in a couple of weeks because nobody's paying attention and nobody cares. But again, my gut, I said, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to change my behaviors because if nothing else, I'm a believer that if 95% of people are fine after they get it, it's probably best to get the virus and be done with it. I probably have already had the virus, just considering how much I travel, because it's being exposed to germs is actually a good thing. Obviously, we know how this ends. The numbers just didn't match. And this is the most interesting number to me in all of this. So we, again, a nation of 330 million plus people. We have 23,000 deaths. Out of those 23,000 deaths, over 10,000 of them are in New York City. That's strange. There's a lot of people that don't live in New York City, a lot of people that have been partying, a lot of kids that went on spring break. Why are almost half of the deaths concentrated in New York City? I get that New York City is a busy city. I lived there for 8 years. I was born in New York. But I can tell you that more than 1 million people fled immediately as soon as this outbreak happened and the doom and gloom predictions came. They went to their summer homes, they went to their friends' homes, they went to their family homes. Manhattan is really a city of transplants. People that actually live in Manhattan and grew up in Manhattan, almost all of them have houses somewhere else because it's an incredibly expensive city to live in. So we know that Manhattan people pretty much fled, yet almost half of all of the deaths that we have in this country are concentrated to a city that, even when everybody is in the city, has about 7.5 million people. So that is already sort of remarkable, right? Well, shouldn't there be, there's a dense city. What about, San Francisco? What about Chicago and all of these other cities? Why aren't we seeing that same level of an outbreak happening? So I said, let me just pay attention to DC. Let me look at my eyes. I'm one of those people that believes that in many cases, as society becomes more and more technologically advanced, we've abandoned our gut instinct and our instincts in general. We rely on the media to tell us how we should feel, as opposed to just kind of going outside and seeing if things are real. It was the same thing in terms of police brutality. We saw the media every day say that there was this epidemic of Black men getting shot. If you were a Black American in 2016, you would have been scared to see a police officer because we really thought it was an epidemic. But again, me relying on my instincts didn't really add up to my experiences with police officers over the year. Went and looked at the statistics, and the statistics didn't match the hype. And it turned out that in all of 2016, just 16 unarmed Black men were shot and killed by police officers, and police officers were 18 and a half times more likely to get shot by a Black man than the other way around, and that more white men were shot and killed unarmed by police officers that year, as were more Hispanic men. So that instinct that I have, I tend to follow it and not really invest so much in the media hype, especially when it seems like it's the same media members that are hyping it that have been hyping every other promised apocalypse. As I mentioned earlier, net neutrality. When you see those same players in place, you should just, put your antennas up, not tinfoil hats, but antennas, to just say, all right, well, it should be very soon for us to see these outbreaks. Of course, it hasn't happened. DC is a particularly interesting area because today, as of today, there have been 69 COVID-19 deaths. 69, that is it. of all of this year in Washington, D.C., a city of many transplants, a city of people that are passing in and out all the time because we've got Congress and politicians, and they're always on the road, you would just think that this would be a bigger hub. We have had no instances of the hospitals being overwhelmed. 69 deaths, that's really low. Way more people have died of the flu, okay?